The other significant factor, however, is deals, right? A lot of times when somebody did so well during tough times, it's because they did deals.
Welcome to the Fueling Deals Podcast, the podcast that teaches how to accelerate your business growth through all types of deals. It's time to fuel up, so buckle in with your host, Corey Kupfer.
There are only two ways to grow your business: organically through sales and marketing and providing great products and services, and inorganically through deals. Too many companies focus only on the first way, organic growth. Welcome to the podcast, which will help accelerate your business growth inorganically. My guests are a huge variety of deal makers and experts on all types of deals who have personal experience that can help you grow, get clear, learn best practices, and avoid mistakes. We discuss everything from large, complex mergers and acquisitions to smaller deals that you can do even without significant capital. Today is a solo cast, and I want to talk today about a number of articles and commentators that I've seen that have started to talk about factors that may be showing that we're running into a recession. Now, I don't want to talk about it in a way where I say that there is a recession coming imminently, because I don't think truly anybody could really predict that. And I also don't want to be one of those people who just echo, if we all say a recession is coming, people are going to start acting accordingly and it's going to come. But the reason I raise it is because it does affect deals in some ways that I'm going to talk about. So recently there have been some articles and commentators talking about how the yield curve, between the average monthly spreads on yields between the 3-month and the 10-month treasury is starting to move in a direction that is more of an indicator of recession. They talk about consumer and business sentiment, that there's a gap going there with some recessionary signals. They're talking about recently, at least, some drop in manufacturing statistics that are significant. Global growth is slowing. I've seen articles on consumer debt going up. So, any case, there are a number of factors that are having people and commentators and articles being written saying, "Hey, we may have a recession coming." Why do I raise this? I don't raise this because I don't know whether we're going to have a recession in 6 months, a year and a half, 5 years from now, or longer. But what I do know is that we run in cycles. And anybody who's been in business for a long time knows that, we'll have a downturn. Well, we will. It's whatever it is, we don't know, but it will come and then it'll come back up. And that's the way the economy rolls. And we have been, on a 10-year run now of positive indicators mostly. So that, and that's a long period of time in terms of history for things to be moving in a positive direction. So why do I raise this? Most of us in business have heard that the most money is made during downturns, during recessions, depressions, right? How many people, times a year, how much money people made during the depression. Well, let's break down how that money is made in, down economies. There's really fundamentally two things that happen. One is that the weaker players, when things are tough, end up having trouble and potentially going out of business, so that the competition gets thinned and that those companies that survive end up coming out stronger because now there's less competition when the economy picks up for the business as it increases, right? So that's one way, and that's a significant factor. The other significant factor, however, is deals, right? A lot of times when somebody did so well during tough times, it's because they did deals. So what does that mean? Does that mean that, you should be sitting around and not doing deals until bad times come? No, not necessarily. There are plenty of good deals to be done in good times, whether they're M&A or licensing deals, strategic alliances, or doing deals with business partners. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that it's something to think about, right? I know some people now who have decided that they're going to be stocking away a bunch of money to be able to be in a position to do deals during the next downturn. They're young enough where they think they have some runway after that, where they can make the investments at a time when things are lower, and that, they can wait for it to come back up. And it's interesting to think about because, who is able, so let's talk about what happens when there are downturns, when there are recessions. What happens is business starts to dry up for companies, right? So there's less profit available. And for the companies that are in the worst shape, there's no profit available, and maybe there are losses. So that companies now, they tend not to expand. They don't hire. They maybe cut their marketing budgets, which causes the companies that work with them to end up with less revenue, and that ends up, cutting their budgets. Maybe they lay off some people. They cut other expenses in certain ways. But they're usually doing it in reaction and, to things, and they're not doing it where they're putting a lot of money away. They're doing it so that they don't bleed money, right? So they can pay their payroll. They can pay their mortgages at home. They can, make the business expenses and still make a living. So, in that cycle, companies run into trouble. Now, there are opportunities there, right, to buy businesses. And listen, I remember there was a speaker many, many years ago, and I wish I remembered his name so I can credit him. But this was a panel of billionaires who talked about how they all had tough times. And this guy said the first time he made a huge amount of money, they said, what was the lesson? He said, well, I mistook a bull market for brilliance, which is a line that I love. I mistook a bull market for brilliance. So meaning, the economy was good, things were cooking along, and his business was going great, and he thought he was brilliant. Well, it turned out there was a downturn, and suddenly he was not so brilliant. And his companies actually, he had a bankruptcy, went out of business. Now, subsequently, many years later, he had rebuilt, built up other businesses and became even way more successful than that before. But that was a lesson for him, right? Now, so let's talk about, right, what happens when that bull market goes away? Well, some of the companies that are less efficiently run, that are not, where the good economy is hiding their financial lack of controls, their mismanagement, their lower profit margins, whatever it is, those companies run into trouble. And, some of them go out of business, some of them join other places, but some of them get acquired. Right. And whether you're actually acquiring the business or whether you're doing, what we talked about in other shows, an acqui-hire, where you're really hiring them and maybe giving them an upside, those deals happen a lot in down economies. Well, some of those deals can be done without capital, but there are a lot of opportunities that do require capital in down markets, whether it's buying companies at a discount, buying real estate, at a discounted price, making an investment into a company that is a fundamentally good company, but may be running into temporary cash, challenges because of not anticipating the recession, which frankly is hard to anticipate, or not reacting quickly enough, which a lot of us, listen, that was my issue in the Great Recession, 2008, 2009, right? When things suddenly started dropping, I didn't realize that it was going to continue that way. And then, of course, everything happened with Bear Stearns and with Lehman Brothers and that kind of stuff. And next thing you know, boom, we're in trouble. And even then, I probably didn't, act quickly enough. So what happens? Who is able to take advantage of those opportunities? Who's able to buy those companies at a discount, buy that real estate at a discount, make strategic investments, and get a better valuation for those investments at that time for companies that are eventually going to come back and be super strong and much more valuable? Well, it's the people who've planned in advance. It's people maybe who put some capital aside to be able to do that. Or at least are, aware of the opportunities and have other opportunities. Maybe they're not going to invest capital, but maybe they have shored up their balance sheet and income statement so much that their company is strong, and they're the ones that people are then going to flock to in terms of employees who are losing their jobs, in terms of companies that want to be acquired, et cetera. So, it's an interesting decision, at this moment, again, and I don't raise this, these indicators, who knows when it's going to happen, but it's an interesting decision at what point, you say, maybe I want to take some action to position myself to be able to do deals in the future when things are at a discount, when businesses are at a discount, when real estate's at a discount, et cetera. One of the things that is important to me is that people create sustainable businesses, right? Because those sustainable businesses have clients that rely upon them. They have employees that rely upon them, and their families, and are relying upon those businesses to live the life they want and send their kids to college and all that kind of stuff. So preparing in our own businesses for the downturn, for any kind of downturn, just to survive and thrive and try to thrive through them, is the first thing we need to do. But then, can we have some extra powder in the keg to really be able to take advantage of those opportunities when they come? There's a young investment advisor. Some people know I have a bunch of clients in that space, among other spaces, who left one of the big firm, one of the wirehouses, Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, UBS, places like that, and has a very nice business and knows he's got a lot of runway. Actually, a lot of the advisors who leave those places are in their 50s, some of their 40s. This guy's in their 30s, and I remember he said to me that he's actually raising some capital now, even though he doesn't need it. And I'm not saying this for everybody, but he's made a choice because he can raise some capital for the new business, even though he doesn't need it, because he believes in the next several years there'll be a downturn, and he'll then be in a position to have an opportunity to take advantage of it. So, are there opportunities now for you to either save or raise or borrow or whatever capital that you may use later? Is that the right thing for you and your business? I'm not saying it is, right? I mean, you can't, timing the market's a risk. You may be paying borrowing costs on that capital for 5 years before, there's any opportunities that come up. But, I think it's something at least to think about and consider in these downtowns. Now, I had Joel Block on, I think it was episode 4, maybe, of the podcast. Joel was talking about these opportunity zones that are in the tax bill, and whatever you may like or not like about other aspects of the tax bill, there are these opportunity zones. So even in this up economy, there are opportunities to go take advantage of places where there are, where things aren't as strong. And that's almost sort of like if you feel like those areas are going to come up, the opportunity to invest there and buy there may be an opportunity to make a investment in what is sort of a down market or discount, like when there's a recession, when things are going well. I just actually recorded today a podcast with Niles Heron, which is not going to, I don't know which order, frankly, we're going to air these in. I think this will probably be before that. In fact, I'm almost sure. So look forward for Niles' podcast, where he and I had a conversation about Detroit. He's a guy who grew up in Detroit, left there for a while, came back, and, we all know the challenges that Detroit had. And he talked about, on that podcast, the guy who came in and bought up a lot of Detroit, and what a brilliant, business move that was at the time, and how it's not only helped him, but it's also helped to revitalize the Detroit economy and done some, good things from some other people. He had some reservations about it as well. You can listen to the episode with Niles to hear the details of those. But there are so many examples of where people do that. If you study the Great Depression, if you study the Great Recession of 2008, 2009, you study any of the downturns, and I've seen it. I've done deals for clients, right? I mean, listen, I remember the Black Monday in the 90s. There were a lot of people were running and hiding, but then there were a handful of people who were sophisticated deal makers who had access to capital or their own capital, who went out and did a lot of deals, right? Whether it's real estate or stock or businesses at a discount. So, it's something definitely to think about in your overall deal strategy. When you deploy capital, when you do deals, at what point of a cycle that you do it. Are deals expensive or cheap? Where are they on the curve? And listen, it doesn't mean that you're not going to do deals in up markets. There are plenty of great deals to be done. In fact, there's a lot of runway on those deals as long as things go well. And if they're fundamentally sound deals, then they will hold out through even the downtimes. So, I'm not saying that, all you should do is sit around and wait for deals in down markets, but it should be part of your thinking. It should be part of your strategy. And you should have a strategy around deals, right? Some people do. I mean, if you're really going to be a deal maker, now listen. Some people are going to run their businesses and haphazardly deal opportunities are going to come up, and you'll do them. That's fine. But if you want to create a deal strategy, if you want to become a deal maker as part of what you do as a business person, as an entrepreneur, and you want to always look out for opportunities, you want to take into account whether or not part of your deal strategy will be to be more prepared for downturns in the economy. That then you can take advantage of. So I hope this was helpful. I would love to hear your stories about how maybe you've done this in the past or seen people do this in the past. I'd love to, have our listeners be able to see some more examples of that. Listen, real estate's an easy example. Buying companies is an easy example. I'll give you another couple before I sign off here. I've seen people in down markets be able to buy IP portfolios, intellectual property portfolios. So let's say a company on the business level does poorly and runs into trouble during a downturn, but they may have valuable intellectual property that could be repurposed, whether it's brands that are valuable, right? You see people buying up brands that ran into trouble and revitalizing the brands, or it might be content or other, training materials or online content that could be repurposed. So looking out for intellectual property value when a operating company runs into trouble is another way, is another area that you can potentially look at. And then obviously absorbing talent. And this is one that you don't necessarily need, big money to write checks up front. You need to obviously be able to pay the salaries. But I've seen so many people absorb great talent in down markets from companies that don't make it, employed talent and sometimes formerly owner talent. So, start thinking strategically about this and how you might fit it into your deal strategy while doing deals, good deals now that when the economy is still relatively good. I wish you all the best in your deal making in up and in down economies. Love to hear your comments. So thank you, Fueling Deals listeners, for tuning in. Remember, there's only one difference between companies that grow inorganically and those that don't. And it's unrelated to size, amount of capital, or any other factor other than that the owners and executives of companies that do deals make a decision to do deals. And then they take action. Well, it's time to refuel. So until next week, Corey Kupfer signing out.
Thank you again for tuning in. Be sure to leave Fueling Deals a rating and review on iTunes and Google. Check out all our episodes at fuelingdeals.com to find out more resources to accelerate your business growth.